Peace, y'all, and welcome to Gather and Heal, the podcast. My name is Vanessa and I am your holistic host. Basically, we're going to have lots of combos. Sometimes it'll be just me, and sometimes we'll have some guests. No matter what the topic is, though, I'm going to make sure that it connects right back to your emotional wellness and healing journey.
Peace, y'all, and welcome back to Gather and Heal, the podcast. I am super honored because I've got Kwashonda here with me, and we've been in this healing arts immersion together now. 9 months, is it? 8 or 9? I don't know. We're coming to the end. March. Started in March. Spring equinox. That's right.
Yeah.
So we've been virtual friends, virtual classmates, learning together, trying out new things together. And I'm super honored to have you come through and be a guest on the podcast today. You've got lots of new juicy things to talk about. I can't wait for everybody to hear about your community. You've also got a podcast. And if you're watching the video, you could see her book that just dropped. It's in the background there. So please definitely. So yes, absorb all of this dopeness. I'm super excited. But before we get going, tell us, who are your people? What do you do for fun? What sets your soul on fire?
Lifting people up sets my soul on fire. My people, my people are my children right now. It has not always been that way. I've had a lot of people. I mean, house always flooded, always booked and busy, doing a bunch of nothing. And right now, my people, a lot of people from our community too, from our program, have become my immediate soul tribe as well. And I do meet people along the way. But what I'm learning now about relationships is back with those people, like there were no boundaries. So it was always together, always talking, shop together, sleep together, hang out with, like, it was just like a lot. No real personal space. And at that time, didn't really know who I was. So now I'm just really enjoying me and my space. And growing up the only child, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it was, you was the only child as well? Yeah. You had a lot of cousins?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Kind of tricky. So I have a lot of cousins on my dad's side, and I would always see them when I would visit the Dominican Republic. And there were some still up north. And then on my mom's side, it was just 2, 4, 5 of us.
Okay.
So it was small, but I was definitely feeling the only child vibes.
Yeah. So when you finally like go to high school, go out in the real world, it's like people, you kind of like over socialize. It's very awkward. It's kind of awkward socializing. I even find that as an adult now, like casual conversation, because like you said, what sets me on fire, like talking about something of substance and building people up. Sharing my awakening, something that I heard, like I shared with the book with you a few minutes. That's what I do like on a daily. So a casual conversation is weird. It's like, what do we talk about? Our hair?
What is the point of this? Skimming the surface. It's like, we are only here on this earth one time. Tell me your deepest, darkest secrets. Like, let's go.
Show me your soul. Like, yeah, so it's hard. And I'm even when I'm around people, like I kind of like watch them to like see how they socialize. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Like, y'all are weird. And I have my 4 kids, so I see them, and they only talk when they fight. So I'm like, I would have loved to have somebody else here to play with and just like vibe with. Like, what are y'all doing? Like, y'all acting like only children.
But, I wonder, you say that, and I'm like, I wonder how much the characteristics, and I'm sure people have already done studies on it. I just got to go look, but like, how many only children really do just kind of sit back and observe things before making effort to connect? And because I think about how deeply I like to connect with people. So because I like to connect so deeply, I am really specific about who and how and when I put my energy in. And I'm like, oh, is that going to ripple down to my son and my bonus daughter?
Okay, so you have the two. That's dope. So so he's not alone. And
not completely.
What's your zodiac?
So Aries, Gemini, and then Sagittarius.
Wow, that's dope that you have that kind of control, being an Aries first and being Gemini and Sagittarius. I can't tell you the other houses because
Mm-hmm.
for some reason my mother, she doesn't remember the time I was born. But anyway, so I know I'm an Aries. But when I check, like when I give it that general between like 9 and 11 p.m.,
Mm.
I am a Pisces, like Aries Pisces.
Oh.
So yeah, my daughter, she's a Gemini, and I just see how social she is. And Aries, we are very fiery. So for you to have that control, I think that's really dope. And I never would have gotten Aries. I would have never gotten Aries from you. And my mom, she's a Sag, and she's very talkative. She's protective of her energy, but she will talk your ears off. And
Fascinating.
so yeah, that's dope. You sure? Somehow.
I'm sure. I've
What's
done
your
it a few times too. I'm
what's
like,
your aura type?
manifester.
Okay. I'm a projector.
Oh wait, that's my human design. No,
Yeah,
that's right.
well, that's the
Sorry,
same
sorry.
thing. Yeah, it is the
Yeah,
same thing, right? It's so new.
I
Well,
know
to
it
me,
is new. Me too. Yep. And I love it, right? Because and it actually came up in the last two podcast recordings I did when we were talking about human design. And these two women that I was speaking with are in this like year-long immersion around human design. And I was like, ooh, that is so fascinating. Because when I tell you, when I learned that I was a manifester, I was like, this all makes so much sense. Why I'm always like thinking about things and wanting to create them and like putting energy behind it, but dare I say and wrap myself out, not always completing things because that's not always my forte, right? So I loved learning that and listening to AC Brown's podcast where she like really
yes,
breaks it down. Have you
I like
listened to
it.
the episode where she talks about the kids? Where
No,
she talks about kids and their signs? Ooh, it
no.
was good.
Okay, I'm gonna listen to it. I'm gonna definitely
Hmm.
listen to it. So, what was I gonna say? So, manifestors, you guys start, but you don't finish. You're the initiator.
Yeah,
It's kind of the same thing as the Aries, though, right? They say with
guilty as charged. All the passion, all the fire, we get it going. And then I'm like, all right, who's gonna keep fanning this fire? Because I'm done. I'm moving on to my next project.
real talk, right? Because I don't want to do that anymore.
I'm over that one.
You know what's so dope? Shanila had a podcast once, and it was so beautiful. It spoke to my soul. Where she was just like, don't be so attached to a thing or to let go of a thing just because you've committed to this thing publicly. So it's like, oh, now what are people going to say? Like, oh, she picks things up, she puts things down. And it's like, no, we're trying. And when you really look at people that are successful, like any entrepreneur, they've tried hundreds of things before it
Listen,
actually worked for them.
yes.
So it's not like you start, right? And then now you're just not doing anything with your life. Now you out shooting pool, hanging out the bar and popping bottles. Like you moved on to another project because that's where your energy led you. And if it's meant for you to go back to it, or maybe you started another process to learn something and then learn something that you can apply there. So I am guilt free now when it comes to starting and stopping. I don't care what nobody has to say because honestly, the people that we look at that we are worried about judging us, they ain't doing shit. They ain't.
Right.
Can I swear?
Oh hell yeah. I got the little E next to the whole podcast because
right. They ain't doing shit. So it's like, I'm just doing me till I figure it out and find it. So congrats to you for picking things up and putting things down. Me too.
Thank you. And that's why those people have so much time on their hands, right? And that's what I try to like circle back and say to my clients and people that I'm connected with, where it's like, why are we worried about what others are thinking about us, about what we're doing, how we spend our time, and so on and so forth? It's like, this is for me, it's not for you. And if you do have so much time to be so involved in wondering and worry, quote unquote, about how I'm doing my time, you need to refocus on you. And I'm going to leave that over there. I'm going to let you do what you need to do over there. And I'm going to keep chugging along with all of my 50 projects, right? Or maybe at one particular time it's just one or two. But that's what that's what makes me happy, right? Like that's what sets my soul on fire is the opportunity to be creative, the opportunity to learn and blend, right? Because I'm also an alchemist, right? Where I'm like, okay, here's the science behind it. How do I break it down? Because I'm not going to remember all those fancy terms. And here is how we, drop it into humanity and how we show up. So I'm here for me. I'm not here for anybody else. Like I'm not worried about them.
Right. And that's funny that you're an alchemist. Like you really are the definition of an alchemist. Like, because I see how you are with the therapy and I see how passionate you are in the healing arts. And if it's the last thing you do, you're gonna make the connection. You're gonna make people see how they fit.
That's
Like,
right.
yeah,
That is
I
right.
definitely see that. I saw that in your breath work session that you hosted in the
Thank
community as
you.
well with the pointer and
Yes.
everything like that. So
I brought in some brain spotting, flow
yeah,
breath
after
work,
school.
like all the things. We have to, right? And I think it gives us more permission as humans to show up and pick and choose what we need at any particular time and be okay with it and not be shamed about it.
Seriously, because when you do that, when you make that connection, and that's kind of like what I'm all about too, like just really bringing the Chanel will call it the woo into
Mm,
the day-to-day life. When you make that connection, it allows people that may not always be able to be in a traditional setting where you are able to do your spiritual practices, be able to ground yourself and come back down to reality and think through things through a spiritual eye, but logically.
mhm.
Like, so when you connect the both, I think that's dope. Dope. So now you have a tool that you learn here, but you can also do it right now while you're in your office or
Right,
while you're in work. So yeah,
right.
while you're at work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
What has been your favorite part of the immersion, or like what's resonated the most with you?
Oh God, so much. So oh my God, so much. But just not. The main thing is just really releasing control and not always having to know, making me realize that I don't know what I need. Making
Mm,
me really finding out that I don't know what's best for me.
mm,
And I really can't see that. Like, for someone that goes around preaching 24/7 about you can't see the picture if you're in the frame and sometimes you need somebody, like, I never really felt like that applied to me because I was so
mhm,
self-aware.
mm,
And when we were in that program, and I'm thinking I need to learn a new skill to offer, like to be helpful, to be more of a service to my community and others. There was some work I needed to do, and though
mm,
I was not, there's a lot of things I've healed over in my life, so healed through in my life. So though I don't behave the same way or react the same way, doesn't mean that I've actually dealt with it. And
mm,
I will always kind of think my way through, right? And what I learned in that program is that energy really does need to be moved more than
mm,
just like rocking our stones and letting our stones absorb energy, clearing out of space, not
mhm.
just smudging, burning an
Yep.
incense, writing it on a paper, releasing it. Like, it needs to really move through your body. And just having somebody else hold space and be in a container of people that will just seeking the same thing. Like, we were all really thinking the same thing when we signed up, right?
Yep.
Like,
What
we,
am I gonna learn? What can I
right,
put in my
exactly.
toolbox?
Right, exactly. And it's like, no, I learned myself. I learned that I had some shit.
Mm,
It may not have been affecting anyone, but it was definitely affecting me and holding me back and preventing me from doing things. I've been like on this journey of like, what next? What next? And
mm,
even when I was not fully woke, say this per se, I was always trying to come up with some kind of a business to support people, to help people. That was always
mm,
like my catch at the end. Oh, it's gonna help
mm,
somebody. Oh, help! Like, that was always it. It was never about me. I'm not like, oh, I'm dropping a clothing line and make some cute clothes. It was always like something deep. I'm going to make sure I support families. I know one of
mm,
my first businesses I created years ago was called Packages for Love. It was an online commissary store. It was an online
mm,
commissary store for prisoners, of course, for people to purchase packages and ship to their families up north. Well, where I was at in New York, all the upstate prisons are in
Gotcha.
upstate New York. And I thought about this because my uncle has been in jail almost my entire childhood and some teenage years. He's been free now. I would say probably like the last 10, 12 years. Shout out to him. But I was seeing it. Yes, right. But he had, it's so funny because I was looking at his picture. I'm going side so can't sidetrack. But I was looking at his picture when he was 17 with my grandmother, and I looked at my son, and he was up north doing his first bid at 17. Or either that was in Rikers. Either way, he was in jail at 17. I just looked at my son who's just turned 17, and I was like, look where your uncle was at when you were 17. I was like, you're already like breaking the generational curses, because my son, his dad is deceased. You know, his dad died when he was 5 months. He was murdered. So it's just like you're already doing well. So don't be so hard on yourself, you know. So anyway,
and you are too, Mom. You are too. He
you,
wouldn't be here, you know, at 17 breaking these generational curses if you didn't help him set that up and get to this point too. So shout out to both of y'all.
Thank you, Vanessa. So I was seeing my mom going. She didn't have a car. Going to the ShopRite, getting his canned goods, getting his boxes, getting his Kool-Aid mix. Then we go to the post office, and she would package it and then mail it off to him. So that's where that stemmed from, me doing that. And of course, in the Aries I am, and then life happened, and I dropped the ball on that one. But everything always was like that, you know. So being in that container with you guys, with people that just really wanted to better themselves, to help people, and eventually figure out a way to make money from it, that was dope. And I was able to move through a lot of things and face a lot of not even thoughts and not even feelings, just energy that took up space. And you know, I don't know if you resonate with that. So it's not something I could put into words. It's just something that was there, and just like, okay. And so
I completely resonate with that.
Meeting you all, people like, you know, you wonder if there are good people in the world, because even me, I know I'm not the best, right? I'm not the best, and I have my flaws. So if I'm here now, right, and if I still have those things, what's the rest of the world working with? So just to see other people that see you, that see themselves, that are truly like, I felt like I could have said anything in our sessions, and I wouldn't have been judged by anybody. You know, so to know that there are people that exist, like that practice that law of not non-judgment, it's just beautiful to know that is out there. After our sessions, I'm back in the real world, and you know, but just knowing that there's a space, there's a body of people out there that have those traits. It's hopeful and comforting,
and it feels so good, right? I remember I think it was our last call. I was having a really rough day. I was about to not go to class. I was like, I don't want to. Like, I'm just not in the mood. Everything's going wrong, and like all of that. And then the moment I sat down and everybody started coming up on the screen, right? Whether it just be the name because the cameras are off, or faces, and Shanila comes in and she grounds us. I was like, oh, I'm so glad I came today. Right? Like, just that, like I said, it's the feeling, it's what's bouncing around, what's moving through the body, that needed to just be and have this space and the connection between all of us, right? Like, that self energy is what I call it through internal family systems model. That self energy is so felt even when we're on the screens, right? So I love that so much, that we've got that space, and it's so powerful, right? Because like I said, it's not just what am I thinking about, it's not just what am I feeling, but it's also what am I doing? What is my body doing or not doing that it needs? And it was movement that was missing.
It was movement, and the combination of the breath and the movement, that was just different. Especially, I'm not a mover. Like, I'm not a dancer. I mean, I dance in the house, like amongst my kids and, you know, everything. I have not tried to dance lately in public since I've, you know, done my work and all that. So maybe I might be a dancer now. I don't know, but like to actually do that, I think when we had that whole like sensual, that was really powerful and healing for me.
Yeah, that one was so dope. I mean, I'll be in the gym, and if a particular song comes on, well, I'll also preface that the gym is in our living room, so I'm not in public. It's just me. But like when certain songs come on, I find myself purposefully breathing and purposefully shaking and twerking and like making sure I'm moving all of the body because that's what my body is requesting at that moment. The workout will still be there. I'll come back to it, but in that moment, that's what I needed. And so there's also this like power that comes from the deeper that I connect with my body, the the deeper the understanding that I have of what she needs when she needs it, whether it be rest or movement or a hug, because I need connection, right? Also beautiful.
It
It
really
really has been a game changer.
a big game changer. And hugs, speaking of hugs, hugs are really amazing.
Mm,
Like they are like there's something that happens during a hug. Because I told you
mm,
before I was sick. And it's so weird, but I just had the desire to go and hug my kids. They're like, why are you touching us? You were sick. Like, I'm just like, hug me and just stay there. Like, let's just leave it there. And I did not grow up in a household with hugging. Like, hugging was not,
mm,
it was not a thing. And so when I was growing up and I used to separate from my older cousins or family members and they would hug me, like I would pat their back. They're like, why the fuck are you
mm.
patting my back? Like, what are you doing?
Yo.
It was a distraction, like, from the
Yeah.
whole process of like of hugging.
Hmm.
I could just hear them saying that. It used to be so funny. But yeah, so now having kids and hugging the little one because he's so cute and just hugging them, like hugs just really change. Like being in the house, and we don't hug all the time, but there's
Mm,
much more hugging in this household than there ever was in any of the
mm.
ones that I grew up in. So it just really is beautiful. I can't explain the power of a hug. Like
I love it.
I
It's so good. And it's so funny that, the hug part is what stood out to you. Is this morning I was taking my son to school. He's in his car seat in the back. He's like, Mama, can you give me a hug? And I had to ask him again. I was like, excuse me? Like, what do you need? He's like, hug. I was like, okay, babe. When we get to school, I'll give you a big hug. Right? Like, say less, kid. I love him as much as you do, right? But that unspoken power of the connection, right? And not know and him knowing that I'm here beyond like when I'm physically here with you. I'm here with the hugs, and then I'm also here. I'm also with you throughout all walks and times in your life. Whether it be my voice in your head or whether it be, a remembrance of something, like whatever it is. And that for me it's feeling similar to what you were talking about, where, you know, your household wasn't a lot of hugs. Now there are more hugs. And it brings back this intergenerational piece, right? Where it's like, oh, you're going to hear me say I love you a kabillion times a day. I'm going to get hugged as many times as I can, and that you're not running from me because you're a toddler. And I understand that. Fine. But like, what are some other things that you've noticed that you are purposefully doing different as you're raising your young humans compared to what it was like for you growing up?
everything.
Yeah.
Literally everything. This is just a
Mm,
completely different,
mm,
completely different setting, completely different way of thinking. Like just to give you an example, my mother, she was a nurse when I was growing up. I would say probably like she became a nurse when I was like 4 or 5, and she was a single parent. It was just she and I. She was the mistress
mm,
of a really nice dude. Like he held us down, Jamaican dude. I mean, there's nothing
mm,
bad I can say about him. Like and anything I needed, like he was there, but he was not
mm.
there. He came
Yeah.
in because he was a bus driver, so he came in at 4 o'clock in the morning before he would have to go to his bus route for that type of
Mm,
situation. He wasn't there after school. But
yeah.
if I was ever in a pickle, oh, did I just say in a pickle? If I was ever in a pickle, like I know I can call him for something. Like
Mm,
he would help me.
yeah.
And this situation was just so dysfunctional that his kids, because Jamaican hit the time he comes from, men had a lot of kids. He has kids in England. He has kids in Jamaica. He has kids out here. And they thought I was their sibling. They really believe to this day that I'm just another one of his kids. Like, and I believe his wife even thought that too. But anyway, well, I'm going on that wild tangent. Shout out to Carl. I love Carl. But
I love tangents.
but yeah, so she lost her parents too when I was around the ages of like 4 or 5. My grandmother died of AIDS. She actually was one of the blood recipients. I don't know if you know the movie American Bandstand, where they were doing blood transfusions when the AIDS pandemic first happened, AIDS, HIV, whatever first happened, and they were giving blood transfusions without testing the blood, and then they found out eventually, and they still sent out that batch, and then now we have testing and things of that nature. Anyway, so that's how she received her dose. And my grandfather, he died of cirrhosis of the liver. And I believe when she was pregnant, my grandfather had passed away and she lost the baby. On top of mental issues my mother has, me being a nurse, I know she's undiagnosed bipolar. She's something, very nice woman, but she has issues that she should have dealt with. And it breaks my heart that she's reached this age and has not dealt with her issues. Yeah. So my household was just a lot. She had her own encounters with abuse. So she always believed that I was better off alone than being with someone else. So I was staying at, I keep going back to 4, like 3, 4. Like I was probably staying in the house by myself since I was like 3. Like while she was at work, just because she believed that I was better off alone. So I was either alone or either I was getting abused, like by her, like physically, nothing sexual. But yeah, so I was her punching bag. It was just she and I. She was a mistress of a man, so that was just my life. And there wasn't much parenting. There wasn't much direction. And I make any mistakes, she always found the way to put me back in the victim seat. If I misbehaved in school, oh, the teacher must not like you. The teacher must like, instead of just saying I was fucking bad. Like instead of just saying I was acting up, she always found the way for me to be the victim. And that was something that I adapted growing up. And it was so funny because I would go to school and I would always have fights. I had these big old thick glasses, right? So I would always have fights. I would always be bullied in any situation, any social situation. Like I was somehow the victim or somehow the target. And now I'm older and I understand how energy works. When you are abused, when you're being abused, you send that vibration off in the universe. So you'll become the prey of any predator. You are the weakest link in the room because people can sense that. Even kids can sense that energy. I'm not saying that people ask to be mistreated, but when you come from that, like most people that have issues at home, they have issues in school. Why? Because that's the energy that they're sending off into the universe. So they're going to be a target. But anyway, so she always made me the victim. So when it comes to my parenting, one, I'm present. One, I don't do whippings. I try not to even yell. When I yell, it's a snap. It's a break. But what I'm noticing now, since I'm more involved spiritually, like it drains me energetically to yell. Like I came in the house a few months ago from a 16-hour shift. House was a mess. I flipped on these kids. When I tell you, I felt like I was going to pass out. I had to sit down and lay down because I thought I was going to pass out. So my body just doesn't have the capacity for that negativity. I don't know if it's such a pure space now that it's like, we don't got time for that.
No.
Or I've dealt with so much in my life that my body's just like, listen, like, it's just not today. So I'm present. I talk to them. I do not make them victims. Like, I don't care what's going on, especially my 17-year-old. Everything is always a cause. Everything is always me. Oh, he didn't wake up because I took his phone. Like, no.
Well, we're not going to do that.
Let's go back to why you got the phone taken in the first place. I'm not so I'm just like really heavy on accountability and awareness, because the last thing I want them to ever do is like, especially in my field, the nursing field, everybody complains, everybody's miserable, but everybody has the ability to go get another job. So the last thing I want them to be is 35, 45, 25, even 20, complaining about a situation, or the way somebody's treating them, or the pay or recognition that they're getting, without realizing or knowing that they have the ability to change their circumstances. And I'm really heavy on accountability and awareness with my kids. I'm really heavy on talking things through. Even when I do snap, I tell them, I say, listen, like, I'm really trying. I'm still healing. Like, I'm honest. My kids don't, they don't think I'm perfect. They probably know way more about me than they should. But I only tell them because I want them to know. I don't want them to have to find out certain things on their own. There's a lot of things I had to find out on my own. I had to find out that you could get an STD when I found out I had an STD and I was pregnant when I was 17. You know what I mean? No one told me that. And I know it sounds so like, how could you not know? But we didn't have the internet like that. We couldn't just, and me and my friends were going to Planned Parenthood to get condoms because they were colorful and they were cute. So no one even showed us how to use them. So like, I just really I overshare. And I said, I overshare, and I actually talk. I'm present. It's hard with a 17-year-old because now, his mother kicked him out when he was 21. And I truly believe that his life went the way it did because it's like, you kicked him out because, you do get tired of seeing a grown ass man in your house, like not certain things. So, but you didn't teach him how to be a man, right? You just got tired of seeing him one day because he was not a man, and you kicked him out, and he didn't have the proper tools because you spoiled him, which most single Black women do. We spoil our kids, just like you could be in a projects and your kids have every pair of Jordans. Like, why? I just don't understand, right? So with that, it's very hard because I want to be supportive to him because I am his only parent. My kids ask me, do I have favorites? I don't have favorites. I dislike each one of them equally, and I love each one of them equally. Like,
I love that first part.
Like, right when somebody gets in my good graces, like, they'll do something, and just like, okay, you're back at the bottom of the list. So it was a constant rotation. I don't have a favorite, but I do try to show up for him more because he does not have anyone else. He doesn't have another parent. Like, at games, I'm like, you're so funny. At high school basketball games, they record them, so you can see the crowd. So every time he does something, you see me stand up, going like,
it.
And I'm yelling and I'm screaming, and people looking at me, coming in with a stroller, and I'm like, but I have to do that because if I don't show up, who shows up for him? And maybe their dad may not show up for them, but your dad is still walking this earth. It's not literally all on me. And so I'm trying to slowly release the reins up to where I don't want him to feel like he's alone, but you gotta get your shit together, bro. Like, you want driving lessons? Why can't you pay for them? Nobody bought my first hoopty. I didn't even take driving lessons. Like, yes.
Got out there driving.
Just got out there. I swear to you, I bought the car and I drove. It was so unsafe. Like, I used to call people to park my car for me because I couldn't parallel park. Like, I'm like, can you come downstairs and park my car? No license, just the permit. Like, because in New York at the time, you could get your car insured with a permit, and that's just how I live my life. And I think that's another. To me, that's one of the issues we have too. We want our kids to, again, like I said, learn how to be productive adults and productive citizens and know how to take care of themselves, but they don't really have any struggle and they don't really have any grit. Like second generation people that went through the bullshit, right? Now we try to make sure they don't go through anything that we went through. Some
it's so hard.
It's hard. It's hard.
That finding that balance that you're talking about, where it's like, okay, I want to teach you, I want to support you, and I want you to be a successful individual, especially as you're growing up, right? 17, the age is important. And then at the same time, there's also this, I have this guy, it's so funny you're talking about that. I have this conversation with my partner a lot where he's like, yeah, but when I was a kid, I had to da 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 da. And I'm like, I understand that, but we also didn't work so hard to be where we are to have the kids do and navigate life the same way, right? Like, I'm not going to hand you the money every time you're asking to go buy something new. We're going to have a conversation about money and budgeting and spending, right? Like all these things. But then there's times where it's just like, he's like, nah, they don't need that. Just no, I didn't have that growing up. And I'm like, okay, like, how do we kind of meet each other part way? Because you're right. I want both of the kids to grow up and be successful adults. And I want them to be full-blown children. Right. And it's like, how do you, and I don't know, there ain't no manual, or at least I missed the manual on parenting, but
ain't no manual.
Figuring it out as we go.
I mean, the main thing is we just remember the lesson. You know, what is the lesson? And I think for us, we just have, I mean, I don't really know your background too much, but you know, it wasn't a pleasant memory. Like, we learned the lesson, but it wasn't a pleasant memory. Yeah. So how do we give them pleasant memories, but they can still, or just not so unpleasant or not so harsh, but it's still character defining, and you get it. But a lot of times the lessons, you got to go through shit. Because, you know, I was reading something that said, like, I think 80% of people don't decide to change or express their creativeness until they're faced with like some type of a traumatic event, which kind of explains COVID, where everybody, every nurse wanted to quit, every CNA wanted to quit, every doctor wanted to quit now, because they realize, like, wait a second, I have these people don't, you know, this, first of all, there's people, bodies that dropping bodies on bodies. Then you really see you're not getting appreciation from the owners of the facilities or the hospitals that you should, to the point where they couldn't even make sure we had masks. And you really can't take care of people the way you want to take care of people. You realize, like, when COVID made me realize, like, I was not a healer in my profession. I wasn't even a nurse. Like, I'm a pill pusher and I take vitals, you know, and I call, like, so it's just like, you realize you're so much more than what you're doing. You can do so much more, which is why the healing arts is beautiful as well. So that moment, not, again, like I told you, I've always explored, but that moment really unleashed a lot of my natural creative juices, my natural gifts, my natural desires, my true intentions. Yeah. And do you really have to be in the face of some shit, like, for that to happen? Like, who really says, like, that they like the people that created Apple and all these places, like, they were in garages, like, they were, you know, they weren't spoon fed. Like, do you have to be under some type of pressure to learn your lesson and find your true path? And it's just kind of like, we see people like, you know, I don't know how long you've been in the healing arts, but I'm sure it's less than you've been a therapist, right? We see people move like robots out of high school, out of college, and then go into their profession. And these parents are so proud. And it's like, I'm just like, are you really fulfilled? You know, people just really look like they're just moving through life. Like, it looks good on paper. You look good. House looks good. Credit looks good. Family looks good. But y'all don't have any souls.
You don't look too good, right? Yeah, like, all these things around you, okay, but you don't look too good. And that also tells me that you probably don't feel too good either, right? And that piece that you're talking about, moving through like robots, I call it the societal funnel, right? Okay. The society has this education system, and it funnels us right through to our careers. Society has the school to prison pipeline system as well, right? And there's people who follow through in that one, right? And so there's like, how do we recognize that we're just walking through as robots or cycling through these funnels? And then when we realize it, what are we doing about it? Right? And so just sticking with school, for me, I'm like, okay, if y'all don't want to go to college, you don't have to go to college, right? Like, that does not have to be your next step. And what are you going to do though? Right? Like, how are you going to self-explore? How are you going to tap into what makes you happy and brings you joy? So that way you can have whatever it is that you want And when I look at you, I know that you're good, right? And not still just trying to like chug along. It's like, I'm okay. I'm doing this because I have to, or because I'm supposed to, or I checked off the box and so on. No, I don't want you doing that. I don't want you to have to wait till you're in your 30s to figure it out either.
Right.
Please, no.
Seriously. Yeah, real talk. So I guess really our main goal as parents should just be making sure that our kids find the door to self. And however long it takes them to get down that road, that's none of our business. But at least they're on that path of self-discovery, because you said, people in those societal funnels. And what happens once you realize that, that's part of the awakening, right? That's now you're woke. And when you're woke, when you see, there's just some things you can't unsee. You're gonna be miserable. Like that's like you and I just saying, like, all right, you know what? We didn't our first breathwork session, everybody didn't come. Nobody signed up. So I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna stick to my 9 to 5, get my benefits, and retire. We would be miserable. We wouldn't be happy. Like it is, and it's so much easier to just give up and go back to do what we're doing. But once you see certain parts of the world and yourself, just that spiritual exploration, that self exploration that we got to navigate through, and you really see that your gifts is not a figment of the imagination. Like
they are so real.
They're so real. The gifts are real. The energy is real. How do you just go back to being regular and seeing the world in black and white? Because the world is not black and white. It is,
no, thank you,
like so colorful, and you can't even define or name each color, but they're there. And the thing is, you just take what works for you and leave the rest. But make sure you try to explore everything. Like,
right.
Yeah, so
try different things. Don't just do what you're, again, supposed to do and checking off these boxes. It's funny that you mentioned that piece too about recognizing and moving forward. Like once we have the awareness, that it's hard to go back. And sometimes people go back to the 9 to 5 or to whatever it might be, just because it's all they know. And that self-awareness is too hard. Now what do I do with it, now that I've been aware of these and I see all these different colors and how beautiful things are? But what do I do now, right? And then we go back into the funnel a little bit, and then you surround yourself with different people, you learn different things, and then where I like to think we are is back out again, out of the funnel again. And really embodying all of the things, embodying our creativity, embodying our ability to think of so many dope businesses and different ways to take care of others. But now we also have the layer of, and how is this fulfilling to me? And how am I also taking care of myself?
Real talk.
It's different.
It is so different. And it's not even about, I would say, being successful, because you listen to all these coaches out here, right? These business coaches, these life coaches, these success coaches, and everybody talks about consistency. And I truly believe that even if you and I said we want to open up a sex shop, right? Some kind of exotic store, if we were consistent enough with our advertising, with being there, with being present, we will be successful. But will we be fulfilled? So people get so caught up in just, like you said, checking the boxes and doing what they think they're supposed to do because it's common. Nobody really wants to like explore their creativeness, like that business in their head or whatever it is in their mind that they think won't make any money because people told them that it wouldn't make any money. They don't want to do that. They find something else, just like boom, we're in the healing arts. Like, all right, so we want to do herbalism, we want to do this, or we want to read tarot. No, I'm just going to go to be a psychiatrist. I want to help people. I'm just going to be, but why wouldn't you want to do that? Because the psychiatrist, that path is already set. It's so funny when I was young, I gotta stop saying it's so funny. When I was younger, I had said I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And that's the flow of my life. That's just really how it works. But no one ever, like, when I think about psychiatrist, I'm like, maybe I just heard it wrong. Maybe that was spirit talking to me and they really saying psychic. And I just heard it wrong. But I don't want to waste. I mean, I spent time in school with nursing, and I just don't think that. The reason why we get that paper is to have proof, to prove it to the world. You know, it wouldn't really be for me because though, yes, it's a very deep practice. And this, like, I love mind science. Like I love everything about psychology, but I don't want to learn all that because I don't want to diagnose anybody. Like, I don't want to I don't want to die. Like, I think that's dope. And we need people that do that. We need people, you know, that take their time to study the brain of ADHD and being bipolar and traumatic responses. We need people that do that. But that's still being confined to some type of system. You can't really do that on your own, can you? Know, like, I still want to be free. So anyway, you have people that are scared to explore what they truly want to do, or just like you said, what do we do with it? Nothing. Like, when you find certain things, you don't do anything. You just do, and things will just come to you. Just like even me being a projector. I mean, not a projector. Yeah, projector. I have to wait for the invitation. No, it's not for me to be sitting out like, all right, boom, this is my offering. Come to, like, no, I have to wait for people to find me and present them and tell me what they need from me. You know, 'cause anything else would just be, I don't know if you really read the projectors, but it would just be piercing and invasive. You know, like the nerve to tell me what you can do for me.
Yes. And that, what I'm hearing too is like this deeper trust within yourself, right? To say, I know that the invitation will come and I will be ready when it comes. Or I know that this new creative thing that I've discovered really feels good. And I don't know exactly where it's going to take me, but I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep playing with it. Right. Which is one of those things that gets hushed and quieted so much when we are wrapped up in those societal funnels. Right. Because how dare you, even for myself, how dare you, Vanessa, go into the social work field? They don't make any money, right? What are you going to do? Take people's children? Like, there's these very specific perspectives. I'm like, okay, it's a whole ass field. And guess what? I got creative with how I make this whole ass field work for me. There's some sprinkles of traditional things, and there's sprinkles that are definitely not. And I'm good with that. And I'm loving it. And I want more people to be able to have that trust in themselves the way that I have in myself and the way that you have in yourself too. And that we have in our kids. That's where it starts. Like, I have a lot of trust in both of the kids to say, all right, what would you like to do? Right? Now, who do you want to be? None of that. It's like, what do you want to do? What makes you happy? What makes you laugh? What sets your soul on fire? Yes, you little 3.5-year-old. Let's figure it out. Let's see what sets your soul on fire. And it might be one thing right now. Cool. And it might be a whole other thing next week. Cool. That's okay. We don't got to pick one thing and stick with it.
Real talk, so. Yes. Wait, what'd you say? Permission.
That is my jam. Okay. Permission is so big to me.
Permission.
So many layers of permission. So I'm giving myself permission to trust myself, permission to the kids to trust themselves, right? I even tell my clients, like, I'm holding this here for you. And I can like feel it in my hands as I do that. I'm holding this for you because I know that you may not believe this right now, but I believe it, right? I'm holding this permission. I'm holding this confidence. I'm holding whatever it might be until that person can. I'll be your biggest cheerleader. So
that's dope.
Again, some of the things that maybe not everyone was able to experience themselves as a child that we're incorporating now and making sure that we amplify for our young people, right? Whether that be my child, my bonus daughter, or nieces and nephews, or the kid who, who's walking up the street. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to only hold it for certain people.
Yes, because when they're going to be adults much longer than they're going to be children. It makes me wonder, like, did the adults ever think we were going to grow up when we were younger? Like, what did y'all think was going to happen? He was going to off me before I got
that part.
Right. They must have forgot. And that's the thing. I just don't ever, you sit and you watch, I don't know if you know Ayala Van Zant. Like, it'll be these families sitting and everybody has something to say about the way they were raised. Like, I don't want that to be me. I know they're going to have something to say, but I want them to know that I have done everything in my God-given power to fix it. Like, I am really trying. So please just go easy on me. Go easy. And I'm willing to work through anything. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
But yeah. So
which is why you are transparent, which is why you share and you slow down and you have conversations with them. That in and of itself is very different, right? And I mean, there are times where I'm like, okay, you should have a conversation with these children, but my blood is boiling in the background, right? It's like, I don't want to have a conversation. It's like, okay, I gotta have a conversation, right? But that slow down and that permission to be like, having a conversation is so important to me. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to allow myself to be angry at whatever it is that needs to be felt and sat with. And then I'm going to come back and then we can have a conversation.
How old is your bonus child?
14.
Oh, okay. You got a bonus teenager. That's cool. So, how do you like and you're a therapist too, so I'm glad I'm asking you this. Because, we look at people on a soul level and not just people, from our understanding. And we have these kids that we know are discovering themselves, but they do shit. And a lot of times I take certain things personal because I'm like, wait a second, me. Like, why would you do that? Like, you want me to get upset? It's disrespectful, but is it really disrespectful? Like, do they even fully comprehend that they're disrespecting like us? Because I think adults throw that word around, period. Like, disrespect. Do kids really like grasp what disrespect is? Is our idea of disrespect their idea of getting over? Like, or doing what they just, doing them.
Yeah. And I love that you phrase it as a question, because we do have to slow all the way down as adults and be like, okay, how old is this person that I'm speaking to, first of all, right? Because the way I'm interacting and I slow down for the 3.5 is different than a 14-year-old. And this is where I definitely lean into science a little bit more in our anatomy. Like, I remind myself so many times a day, their brain is not fully developed. They literally don't even have the capacity to understand what's happening for them, right? So like, if I discipline my toddler and which is discipline is done through conversation or timeout, but even when I do that and he gets so upset afterwards, I'm like, do you need a hug? Right? Because I know he can't regulate all of these emotions. He can't even identify all of them. He just knows there's a whole lot of something happening and it's got to come out. I'm like, okay, baby, come here. I will help you because I know that you need that help to regulate at this point.
You want to be my mom?
You need a hug. And it really is. So I slow down and I double check, like, who am I talking to? How old is this individual? And really, what is their capacity? And I think that adults like to let teenagers grow up too fast and start using big words or start using or having certain expectations that aren't really age appropriate. So like, we got to slow down and make sure that we're talking to who we're actually talking to.
Yes. And I think that really depends on the parent, their level of maturity too, because I had Sam, my 17-year-old, when I was 18 years old. Like, I gave birth to him. And me personally, I've never seen him as a kid. He's always been somewhat my equal. My friends always say, like, that's your little brother. You just take care of him. Like, and yes, we do have that mother-son boundary. But like, even when I talk to him about the other kids, 11, 9, and 4, it's like the kids. He's not included. He's not included in that. Like, that umbrella, he's not in the kid umbrella. He is the umbrella. And then it is just them. But I look at them and he's just like, oh, you gonna let them do that? I would have got a whooping. I would have got this. Like, listen, first of all, there won't be any more whoopings around here. That's one. I'm sorry I'm sorry you got popped when you did the same thing. But I'm just literally I'm a different person. Like, I am a completely different person. They know a different mom. They know a different lifestyle. He knows it. Like, he knows if we're in the store, if I don't offer, don't ask. Like, he knows that whole not them. Not them. You know, they don't know what it's like to get change out or have to put, like, they don't know any of that. So my point is he's always been like my partner. So it's kind of like, who am I talking to? Well, what's really the age difference? Like, what kind of experience does this parent have with life? Because our blurred relationship, confusing relationship, comes from me still growing up while I was having, me still while I'm having him.
Exactly. And there's actually a clip. I'll find it and I'm going to send it to you. But Dr. Gabor Mate talks about when children feel this way. It's exactly what your son is saying. Like, they don't know what this is like. I do. And you responded beautifully. Was I'm a whole different person. And therefore, by being a whole different person right now, I will show up differently as a mother. Right. And what I like about that too, that you have that conversation with him, is a reminder of you too can continuously grow and evolve. And we should, right? We don't get too comfy right here. Like, keep exploring and growing and evolving. So I hope he hears that part of the message too. And you'll probably have to say it more explicitly again, because he's a 17-year-old, that you want him to take that message away.
Absolutely.
Grow,
Absolutely.
evolve, son.
Yes. Learn from
Beautiful.
my example.
Yeah. All right, Q. We can keep going all day. This always happens to me. I gotta set a timer or something. It's like, all right, okay. But so I will incorporate all the ways that people can connect with you, purchase your book, come through support, whatever it might be, because I never know how, these conversations and how you as an individual will land with people who are listening. So I like to just include all of that in the show notes, and I will. But any last thoughts or tidbits that you want to share? We covered a whole lot, but I always like to double check.
Last notes, last bits. Just like you said, keep expanding, keep growing, keep evolving. Believe nothing, question everything. When you find those answers, question that too. Like, yes, and just be kind to one another, and
And to yourself.
first to yourself before anybody else. Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming through.
You're welcome.
Everybody, y'all know you can find us on YouTube if you want to see the video version, or wherever you stream your podcast. Go ahead and click through it. And don't be greedy. Share with the homies. Other than that, I hope you have a dope fucking day. Peace.